Roll up, roll up. Apologies, I lost connection for some strange reason. So if you're still there, then please come back. Roll up, roll up. One man went to know. We are still here, and the session is still on. I lost connection for whatever reason, but can you please reconvene? Roll up. We're talking about the Civil War, and we're talking about Ojukwu. So we're talking about the mistakes that were made during the Civil War. So please gather. Roll up. We were just interacting now, but then I lost connection for whatever reason. So roll up, gather is still going on. The session is still going on. And we're talking, of course, about the Biafra Civil War and Ojukwu. So we're talking about the mistakes that Ojukwu may or may not have made in the build-up to the Biafra elections. And we're accounting from all sides, from narrations from the participants. So that is the theme of this particular interaction. So Ojukwu we're talking about. Let's just get straight into it. We were going through the narration of a Yoruba officer, but we couldn't quite land on where he spoke about Ojukwu's mistake. But we take this headline, the political mistake Ojukwu made after 1966 coup. So this is the build-up now to the Civil War, of course. So this is what led up to the Civil War, and this is a key player at that time now giving account. Mba Zulike Amechi is the person that is speaking. Mba Zulike Amechi is the person that is giving account. An elderly statesman, he is now trying to make some attribution in terms of what exactly happened during the Biafra Civil War, trying to apportion a specific blame to Ojukwu's handling of that war. Again, the headline, the political mistake Ojukwu made after 1966 coup, a headline attributed to Mbazulike Amechi. So now let's now see exactly how this guy opens this session for us. The first Republic Aviation Minister, Mbazulike Amechi, has revealed the political mistake that former Eastern Region Military Governor Chukwuemeka Ojukwu made in the wake of the 1966 coup that eventually led to the infamous Biafran War. In an exclusive interview, Amechi explained that while the military governors in the north were consulting with grassroots politicians, Ojukwu sidelined and threatened us with restriction notices, and that was the greatest political mistake he made. So this is a gentleman now giving a first-hand account of exactly the build-up to the to the Biafran Civil War, 1966, I think it was, and we will get on to the specific mistakes that Ojukwu is alleged to have made during the course of that war. But we're setting the background first with this narration by this gentleman. When asked if he thought Ojukwu was only obeying the military authorities and he just did not want people around his government, Amechi said he did that before they started their quarrel. After killing Aguyi Ironsi, immediately after the coup, he was appointed the military governor. He did this, but in the other parts of the country, their military governors were consulting their politicians and so forth. So if we had not been restricted or imprisoned as politicians, we could have gotten in touch with our counterparts in the north. It wouldn't have mattered how bitter the position or quarrel was. The civil war could have been avoided. So this is the man. This man is now accounting from the time that Ojukwu was the military administrator of the then Igbo region then. Because of course you have to remember, after the first coup, they appointed administrators as governors for different sections of the country, and Ojukwu, under that dispensation, was a governor for the Eastern region. So this is an account of a top politician from the Eastern region at that time, accounting for how Ojukwu handled the Eastern region as a governor and identifying the mistakes that he feels Ojukwu made that then led to this civil war now that is now part of the history of the Nigerian landscape. So he continues, but he told the people that he had weapons to reduce Lagos to sea level. That was his exact word. We thought he had what he claimed, not knowing that there were no weapons. It was ordinary boast. It was diplomacy he used, some propaganda, but the politicking did not work and the war broke out. So Ojukwu was taking his position, just sort of like using language to big up himself, according to this guy, without actually being able to back it up with substance, claiming that he had weapons when he had absolutely nothing. This is an account of an Igbo man who was a politician in that era at that time. It was when the war broke out that he released all of us, and by then, Yakubu Gowon had released Obafemi Awolowo from Calabar prison and posted him to Lagos and made him the vice chairman of the Federal Executive Council and the Commissioner for Finance and Economic Matters. But our politicians here were rubbished by Ojukwu's action, Amechi said. So what you are seeing now is that build up then to the Biafra war. So this account now by this senior politician of that time is to say that the handling of his region by Ojukwu was brash and arrogant, in contrast to how Gowon was handling the Nigerian state, which was negotiational, civil, and transactional. So different tasks by different leaders, which of course, if you are negotiational, transactional, civil, and respectful, then you are more likely to get more out of people than if you are brash and arrogant. This is now what is imagined out of the narration of this senior Igbo man, Igbo politician of that era. The former minister enthused that Awolowo's appointment was to get the support of the Yorubas. Although it was okay for him and his Yoruba people, the action of Awolowo did not help Indigo and could read as ingratitude, although he had no option because it was a military government. So to me, he had no choice than to go along with them. But if our man, Ojukwu, had played his part well, there would have been a way Michael Opara would have gotten in touch with Awolowo. There would have been a way a person like me would have gotten in touch with Aminu Kano and others to soften things, because there was a link of that ideological and fraternal meat amongst all of us that went all around. So the war, this gentleman now is attributing what really led to that war to the mishandling by Ojukwu of that eastern region, again going to that brash arrogance and disregard for people that were older and perhaps wiser then, and to no deference to age and experience, etc. This is the image that this gentleman is painting. So we're painting the picture to the build-up to the we're painting the picture to the build-up to the Nigerian Civil War, which of course we know the history of that. So we're building up to that war, and then we're going to go through that war and pick out 6 key mistakes that has been identified and attributed to Ojukwu as being the reasons why that war went the way it went. But we are still in that build-up with this narration by this gentleman. His name again, where is his name? Mba Zulike Amechi. So that Mba Zulike is spelled M-B-A-Z-U-L-I-K-E. So I'm pronouncing that as Mba Zulike, which I think is probably a good enough pronunciation. So where did we last stop? Okay, the former minister enthused that Awolowo's appointment was to get the support of the Yorubas. Although it was okay for him and his Yoruba people, the action of Awolowo did not help Indigo and could read as ingratitude, although he had no option because it was a military government. So to me, he had no choice than to go along with them. But if our man, Ojukwu, had played his part well, there would have been a way Michael Opara would have gotten in touch with Awolowo. There would have been a way a man like me would have gotten in touch with Aminu Kano and others to soften things, because there was a link of that ideological and fraternal meat amongst all of us that went all round. So the war could have been avoided. So this is the man now building a narration that mistakes that was made essentially by Ojukwu was actually what led to that war, and we will still get to mistakes that have been identified that were made by Ojukwu during that war. So it carries on, but however, so many people were killed in the pogrom, but the question was that the leaders who would have changed things like Saudana of Sokoto were killed, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was killed, Mayor Malari, the highest northern military man, was killed. So if you were the northerners, wouldn't you react? We could have stopped the war through diplomacy and politics, but we were not involved. So what this man is painting is a picture of a categorical dismissal of the big names in Igbo land as at that time, because of course, when Ojukwu set about prosecuting and persecuting this war, he seemed to be single-handed and single-minded in his want, and he just pursued that war based on, I think Ojukwu went to Oxford, didn't he? So based on that education and that arrogance of having that British education, etc., that seems to propel him to have disregard for what was on the ground, because no matter how little you respect what is on the ground, what is on the ground is what is on the ground, and you have to make best use of it to get to that greater good that you may well be pursuing. Let's see what people are saying in the comment section. I've had to restart this session, so I'm not quite sure if you people have followed along. But Mosi Sam Sidin is saying, so I don't know what that is, but you might want to expand on that. Grace says, good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon to you too, Grace. Jennifer says, good afternoon to you, one man, and to everyone. So good afternoon to everyone. And this is the hyperlink if anybody wants to come on screen and come and join me. We're talking about the Biafran Civil War. We're focusing on Ojukwu, the leader of the Igbo people, and we're building up to the mistakes that have been identified. We are narrowing out 6 mistakes in particular that have been identified that were made by Ojukwu during that civil war. But as a preamble, as a prelude, we're going through the build-up to that war first, and we're discussing mistakes that he made in the build-up to that war itself as well. So we've gone to a gentleman in Igbo land, Mba Zulike Amechi, his name is, a top politician, a former aviation minister under the First Republic, so a senior person in Igbo land, and he is giving us accounts of how Ojukwu handled the Eastern region, to the point that he did not sound the opinions of the opinion leaders at that time, even to the point that he incarcerated a lot of them in prison. And then, of course, the build-up to that war, he was making all sorts of, this is Ojukwu we're talking about, he was making all sorts of fantastical claims that he could not then back up. This, of course, then led to a price that was paid in human lives, making claims that he had heavy weaponry. Ojukwu, this gentleman, Mba Zulike Amechi, is quoting Ojukwu as saying that he had so much weapons, he had so many weapons that he could level Lagos down to sea level. So this was what emboldened a lot of people to follow him. But then, of course, when the war broke out, they quickly discovered that he had no weapons at all. Yes, hello, Amide, my guy, how are you today? How are you? Hello, Ero, could you list the 6 mistakes? Yes, we are going to list the 6 mistakes, but we're building up to it. We're setting the background before we land onto that point. So just be patient and we'll get to that in a moment. But if anybody wants to come on stream, then please come on stream, because of course you'll be wondering why a Yoruba man is so fervent in this discussion on Biafran War, and Ojukwu. So we will land on the 6 reasons, but we continue with the preamble first. So this is another person then that blasts both Gowon and Ojukwu. So these are commentary. Biafra Zionist blast Gowon and reveals Ojukwu's mistake. So this is a plague on both their houses narrative. So now let's capture this very quickly before we then go on to the 6 mistakes that Ojukwu made during the Biafran Civil War. The Biafra Zionist Federation, BZF, on Monday tackled former Nigeria head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, retired, over his claims that lies told by ex-Biafra warlord, late Chief Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, caused the Nigeria Civil War. So now, this is something, I'm going to pause on that, just at that paragraph, because this, the first narration that we just read actually identified some of the lies that Ojukwu told that actually fast-forwarded and facilitated that war. He was making claims, this was Ojukwu in the build-up to that war, he was making claims to embolden and to build the confidence of his people that he had sufficient weaponry. And you have to understand, you know, I referenced that Ojukwu went to Oxford. It is very important because there's a lot of deference to education and elitism within the Nigerian state. So especially within the Igbo region, there's a lot of deference both to you coming from a higher class background or home, and of course then on top of that being educated, and what greater education than an Oxford degree. So he went to Sandhurst as well, I think. So a thoroughly well-educated man, articulate in Queen's English, from a high-profile family, and he is giving you this assurance that he has all this heavy weaponry. So of course, he used that to carry the people along. So this was, of course, a lie, which has already been stated by an Igbo senior person that was in the heart of all of it at that time. And this is another claim that Gowon is making, that Ojukwu told a lot of lies, which was what really led to that war. So this is now this organization, Biafra Zionist, blasting Gowon for making that assertion. But then, of course, that assertion has already been backed up by senior citizens of the Igbos themselves who were around and prominent at that time. So we take it from the top again. The Biafra Zionist Federation, BZF, on Monday tackled former Nigeria head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, retired, over his claims that lies told by ex-Biafra warlord, late Chief Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, caused the Nigerian Civil War. The Zionist said in a statement by its self-acclaimed president, Barrister Nsegbe, that it was shameful for Gowon to engage in such a high-caliber twisting of history, even at his old age, whilst chiding Gowon for going to Aburi unprepared. Ojukwu said, "He is a deceiver. He is the mother of all liars. He is a coward and a British stooge." So I'm not really sure. I'm not going to narrow it to ethnicity, and I don't really want to sound essentially tribal, but this is the sort of language that you tend to hear from the East. He's a deceiver. He's the mother of all liars. He's a coward and a British stooge. That is just along the lines of that well vaunted and well rehearsed and well rehashed phrases that we hear of efulefus and stuff like that. So it's that language that is peculiar to that region, just frontal assaultive abuse. So he carries on. Why is he coming now to tell us what happened during the Civil War? Why didn't he make these declarations when Ojukwu was alive? So that's a fair point. So you do not speak ill of the dead, because if not, of course, here to counter your words. So why is he now coming to tell us what happened during the Civil War? Why didn't he make these declarations when Ojukwu was alive? Why did he wait until 8 years of Ojukwu's demise? Now he came to say Ojukwu lied. Why now? He challenged Gowon to produce the Aburi Accord for the world to see. Let him produce the one he claims to be the genuine accord. We challenge him. Gowon is to be blamed for the crisis in Nigeria from 1967 till date. He caused the whole crisis. He could not control the killing of Easterners as the then head of state. The Aburi Accord would have sorted out all these Nigeria problems. The Biafrans came up with a model, a Swiss confederation model. The East, led by Ojukwu, went prepared. Gowon went there empty. He came back with nothing. He came up with nothing. Now, having agreed and signed the accord, it was expected that Gowon would come back and make announcement. He refused to make announcement. What happened? The British government reached out to him. So now this is in the realms of speculation. Because, of course, the British, they have a lot to account for. They have a lot to answer for. But there's too often a quickness to attribute everything to the British. So this person now is saying the British reached out to him. And he's saying it glibly as though he was stating facts. Where is data? Where is the facts that backs that up? Was he present at the meeting? Is there a record and a public public note of that meeting? No. So he's just speculating now, and that is the usual speculation that they use to hump over to make then a lame point. So a lame point about to be made now. I do beg your pardon. Is all this talking, it makes me perched. That's why I always invite you guys to come and join me on the screen, just to give me at least a break from talking, but you guys are not especially keen on that. So where were we? Let's just so yes, the British government reached out to him and warned him not to implement the Aburi Accord. He was never sick. He was afraid that the Igbos would control the oil. There was pressure on Ojukwu to tell the people what was agreed in Aburi. Gowon reneged on the Aburi Accord on the advice of the British government. Again, that is in the realms of speculation, because this guy, he doesn't have any facts to back this up, but this is just really, what people do when they are trying to just glide over then to make a more salient point. If he were sick, so he's referencing now to some sickness that Gowon may have had at that period, which was crucial to then what panned out and led to the Civil War. If he were sick, what of his vice? What of his foreign minister? So apparently, from what we can glean from this, it looks as though Gowon may have claimed to have been sick, then not been able to announce what was agreed at the Aburi Accord. If he were sick, what of his vice? What of his foreign minister? What of his information minister? So he deliberately went incommunicado. That was the genesis of the crisis. Onwuka added, in further defiance of the Aburi Accord, this same Gowon then created 12 states. The British government advised him to create 12 states instead of implementing the Aburi Accord. The East rejected it, and that was the beginning of the full-blown crisis. So I'm not quite sure. I'm going to be ignoring, I will be reading it out, but please ignore the British did this and the British did that, because we don't really know if this guy had the sounding of the British. We only go with what we know as a categorical fact or something that stands to reason. Ojukwu never envisaged secession. So that is to say, Ojukwu never planned for Biafra. Ojukwu never envisaged secession. The Eastern region never envisaged secession. It was Gowon's refusal to implement the Aburi Accord and his subsequent creation of 12 states that caused all these problems, which are still lingering till date. Gowon is a liar. He's a deceiver. He is the father of all liars. Gowon is the cause of the Civil War. He is the cause of all the problems Nigeria is facing today. He brought this up now in order to weaken Biafra agitation. He is doing this to destabilize what we are doing about Biafra's independence. Without knowing that he succeeded then, because of international support from the United Kingdom, Biafra had none. So he's claiming that Biafra had no support, but there are speculations that the Russians, or the Soviet Union as it was at that time, were actually supporting the Biafrans. Ojukwu's only mistake, so this is not the mistake that Ojukwu, that is attributing to Ojukwu. So we're looking at Ojukwu's mistakes, both in the build-up to and during the Biafran Civil War. Ojukwu's only mistake was not accepting offers from Russia. It was a diplomatic blunder, a diplomatic deficiency, failure to understand international politics. So, so this diplomatic blunder and this deficiency that this guy is describing, it allies with what Mbazuike Amechi had already told us, that this Ojukwu, when he was then in his full pomp, was so arrogant and full of himself that he disregarded all opportunities to sound opinions that will further aid or enhance what he's trying to achieve. So it is that arrogance, as I said, of having that Oxford education and coming from a relatively noble background, maybe not actual nobility, but the higher echelons of the Igbo space. So what are you guys saying? I wish someone would come on stream to come and engage. That is usually what makes it. You guys always come on stream, but you come up late. Let me just see what you guys are saying in our comment. So this is, if you come on stream now, they probably know how to pronounce your name. Ehiwema. So Ehiwema, I love your show so much. You are a great man. Thank you. That is good for my ego. So just make sure you say that a lot more often. So Ekena Richard, Ojukwu wasn't perfect, but Gowon did worse. Let's call a spade a spade. So this is what we're attempting to do with this interaction, to call a spade a spade. Knowing the mistakes will lead people to call in. So listing the mistakes would lead people to call in is probably what you're saying. We will get to the mistakes, but we'll build up to it. Isaac, I think Gowon is lying on the statement that Ojukwu lied, or that Ojukwu's lie was what caused the civil war. The same marginalization and domination of Hausa Fulani has now against the southern. So effectively, you get what it means. So let's just go back to the narration and just round that off, and then we'll go on then to list Ojukwu's mistakes. So sorry, I'm not stumbling and fumbling. I'm just actually trying to find exactly where I am with that. Okay, yes, Ojukwu's mistakes were. So this is because we're picking the Ojukwu mistakes first in the build-up to the war. So we picked from Mbazulike Amechi that Ojukwu's arrogance then of not listening to the opinions of Igbo leaders at that time and taking them along was one of the damning mistakes that led to that war and ultimately led to him failing during that war. So that was what Mbazulike Amechi said. So we're now coming to this Zionist group now who are lambasting Gowon for trying to rewrite history, but in the latter paragraphs now, they are identifying or attributing a mistake to Ojukwu. So this is the mistake that they're attributing, and if you listen carefully, this mistake that this group now is attributing is akin to the mistake that Mbazulike Amechi attributed. So listen to what now this Zionist group is attributing. Ojukwu's only mistake was not accepting offer from Russia. It was a diplomatic blunder, a diplomatic deficiency, failure to understand international politics. That was why we are saying that only the United States can help us get Biafra, not what the IPOB is doing. So this is a group, a separate group from IPOB, but of course with the same ones for a Biafra nation. But the point that I really wanted to land on is that that attribution that they're making to Ojukwu in terms of a mistake. Because if they're saying his mistake was not accepting the offers from Russia then, even though there are rumors that he did actually accept some level of support from the former Soviet Union. But if they are making that attribution, that his mistake was not accepting offers from Russia, and then they are also saying that he made blunders in terms of diplomacy and failure to understand international politics, it speaks again to that arrogance and brashness that was the attribution from Mbazolike Amechi, who again made similar attributions in terms of failings towards Ojukwu. So we just round this off. We are calling on Biafrans, come and join Zionists. We are the only group following the needed international diplomatic process to achieve our independence. So this is now a party political speech now, trying to purloin our followers from IPOP, no doubt. He's already paying for his sins. Look at headsmen massacring his people in Kogi, Nasarawa, Benue, Taraba, Kwara, and the rest. These are the people he used to fight the Igbos. It is a same on both Danjuma and Gowon. So that should be a shame, but they were the same. But nevertheless, what are you guys making of it so far? I am inviting people to come on stream. So here is the hyperlink to do that. So I am inviting people to come on stream. We're discussing Ojukwu, and we're discussing the mistakes that he made both in the build-up to the Biafran Civil War and especially during the Biafran Civil War. So we have identified 6 mistakes that he made during the Biafran Civil War. We are coming, and we're, by we, of course, I am saying I, because I am the only one here. So the 6 mistakes has been identified and attributed to Ojukwu for being mistakes rather that he made during the Civil War. But I am inviting you guys to come on stream and just take this topic on, because of course it's a fairly robust one. So we go on to the mistakes that have been identified. Top 6 mistakes Ojukwu made during the Civil War. So this, of course, is what I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting to hear. So the top 6 mistakes made by Ojukwu during the Civil War. So on Tuesday, May the 30th, the pro-Biafra people carried out a sit-home exercise in remembrance of the hero and heroines of Biafra. Ojukwu is a name that rings a bell when it comes to Biafra and Nigerian history. He is heralded as the veteran who spearheaded the attempted secession of the Igbo people. But beyond the heroic stories that have been heard about Ojukwu, there are certain bad decisions he took during the war. So below are 6 mistakes really that is being attributed. So Nzeogwu's death is the first mistake that is being attributed. Nzeogwu's death. He let them kill rather Nzeogwu the Great. So that is the first mistake that is being attributed. Let's see. Is anybody actually wanting to come on? I do want people to come on. So if you click on the hyperlink, then you can come disagree with me fervently. I know, of course, anything Igbo, there's always passion involved. So we're going to the mistake. So I'll just reel them out and then I'll come and join you guys. So the first mistake is Nzeogwu's death. He let them kill Nzeogwu the Great. People rumored that he was afraid Nzeogwu will challenge his authority after the war. Nzeogwu was defined as a man who would stop at nothing to ensure that those in power do not abuse it. So there's an attribution that one of his key lieutenants, Nzeogwu, he either enabled his death, he facilitated for his death, or he looked the other way and allowed it to happen. So that's the first mistake that has been attributed. The second mistake is dethroning generals. Dethroning generals. The stories have been told of how Ojukwu dethroned his generals because they tried to advise him. So this is the thing again, this arrogance, the thing now that is emerging out of all else as the Achilles heel of Ojukwu as a person, as his fundamental failing and flaw is an arrogance and a brashness and an overconfidence in his own being, to the point that he doesn't want to listen to opinions outside of himself. So this is what is imagined. The stories have been told of how Ojukwu dethroned his generals because they tried to advise him and made civilians his generals, e.g. Colonel Achuzia. Colonel Achuzia, that's Achuzia. So that is the second mistake. So the third mistake is going into battle without a solid plan. So he went into the Biafra War, of course, because the Biafra War happened upon him in the course of our interaction with Gowon and still trying to negotiate the position. So, of course, he had no real chance to prepare. And if you are not prepared for war, of course, the consequences is as it panned out during the Biafran Civil War. So that is the third mistake. It was said that Ojukwu was in the habit of not planning his battles. He just fought with emotions. There are reports that everyone who tried to advise him got deposed or thrown into jail. A Biafran high-ranking officer once narrated in his book that he drove from Enugu to the war front at Abakaliki, only to discover that Biafran soldiers were dropped with Ojukwu and were facing the Nigerian superior military. Might punishment didn't even dig trenches. So what they're saying in essence is that there's a colonel, a senior ranking person. It doesn't actually say colonel. It says a Biafran high ranking officer. So once narrated in his book that he drove from Enugu to Abakaliki. So what this guy found then was that the Biafran soldiers were, of course, you have to understand that the Biafran soldiers, they didn't really have any weapons at that time, virtually none, because Ojukwu, of course, lied to them that he had weapons, which he did not have. So they did not really have any real weapons, and they were completely, totally outgunned by the Nigerian soldier. But then, of course, being outgunned doesn't mean you have to just yield, and if you strategize, you might still impact on the enemy. But what this high-ranking Biafran officer is saying is that when he got to the war front in Abakaliki, in a position that was being orchestrated by Ojukwu, the Biafran soldiers that he saw are facing the might of the military armory of the Nigerian army. They did not even dig trenches. Do you understand? They did not even dig trenches to buffer themselves and then say, okay, before your bullets get to us, we will at least take 4 or 5 of you down. So this is what he's saying, and this is what people mean by this guy. He did not even go with a plan, and he just went with emotion. So this is now what is imagined with regard to Ojukwu. So okay, so let's take that again. Actually, a Biafran high-ranking officer once narrated in his book that he drove from Enugu to Abakaliki, to the war front at Abakaliki, only to discover that Biafran soldiers who were dropped by Ojukwu and were facing the Nigerian superior military might punishment didn't even dig trenches. So regardless of how that is written, I think you got the message. So he ordered them to start digging trenches right at the battlefield. This, he said, prevented the Nigerian tanks from overrunning the Biafrans on the very first day of the battle. So it's just basic common sense, isn't it? I mean, and they're saying that this guy, he doesn't really go into these things with a plan, and that is a classic example right there. That is the narration of a Biafran soldier saying that they didn't even do something as fundamental as putting obstacles in the ways of the Nigerian military to get their armory into the Biafran region and overwhelm them. So when this guy got there, he was then the one then ordering the digging of trenches, because of course digging those trenches then prevents the vehicles and the armored tanks to get into Biafra land. So this is the thing. What are people saying on social media? I'm expecting a bit of a backlash 4 days. So let's see what people are saying. Raspaye is this person. This man hates the coming of Biafran. That is why I will discourage any Biafran to support him. He does not deserve our patronage. Okay, after 24 hours, I will delete my commitment. He like evil. Okay, well, you are welcome to come on board, though, if you hold those views so fervently and you hold views to the contrary. Because a lot of these accounts that I'm bringing to you, they are accounts from senior Igbo Biafran soldiers, from senior Igbo politicians, from senior Igbo, from high-profile Igbo secessionist groups. So these are actually Igbo accounts that I am bringing you. I might well be a Yoruba man reading it, but these accounts are actually from the Igbos themselves. And I will put a link to all of these things in the comment section. I don't usually do that, so I'll put a link to all of these things in the comment section so you can go see them yourself. These are essentially Igbo accounts. So if the Biafran soldier is telling us that they so badly planned the war and they so badly planned strategizing that they did not even dig trenches to prevent tankers from rolling into Igbo land, then that is a damning condemnation on how that war was executed. There's no getting away from that. Let's carry on. So he said, so he ordered them to start digging trenches right at the battlefield. So you have to understand, I keep pausing, but you do have to understand, you know the war is coming. You should have dug those trenches before the war was upon you. But it was when this guy got there and saw the war that was upon them that is then started ordered them to start digging trenches. So they are digging trenches essentially as the bullets were raining in. So this is the thing when they say the lack of preparedness. This, he said, prevented the Nigerian tanks from overrunning the Biafrans on the very first day of battle. So this is the thing. Ojukwu did not plan the preparation of the war. He just started fighting with the available resources. He should have got a big country or big countries like the United States or Britain to support Biafra, at least in exchange for some oil. So that would have been a strategy, of course, because that negotiating too. If he had gotten somebody to back him, especially having the oil as a negotiating tool, then perhaps things may have gone differently. Gowon, for instance, agreed with Cameroon not to let Biafrans get weapon supplies from the Cameroonian border in exchange for the Bakassi Peninsula. This alone made the Biafran resistance very miserable. So these are the reasons, of course. Now, 6 reasons being attributed as mistakes, 6 mistakes that have been attributed to Ojukwu during the course of the Civil War, during the course of the Biafran War. So we're 3 deep. So let me see what you guys are saying in the comment section before we go through the last 3. So any takers to come take me on. Okay. So I think it's just abuse that I'm going to get throughout this, actually. So Prince, my friend, will you stop lying on social media? How can you say that Ojukwu lied, that he has weapon and not? My brother, I am not the one saying that Ojukwu lied that he had weapons when he did not. I am not the one saying it. Let me bring you the man that is saying this, because you need to take your gripe to him. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but I'll pop that name into the comment section for you now. Bear with me one moment. I'm just getting that name for you now. He was the First Republic's aviation minister, so a senior person and an Igbo man. And here he is. So I'm not the one saying that Ojukwu lied about having weapons. It is this gentleman that has said that Ojukwu lied about having weapons. So here is his name. So that's the chap that said Ojukwu lied about having weapons. It is not me. I'm merely reading out his words that Ojukwu lied about having weapons. Hello, John. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine.
Good morning. Introduce yourself and tell us what you're making of the session so far.
My name is John. I've been listening to you, and I've been reading your comments, and I just want to contribute a little to what I know about the war. There was a guy that said that he's going to delete his account with you because you are lying.
Well, you know, I expect that because, sorry to interrupt you, John. I expect that because it's a high profile topic that we're tackling. And I, of course, I have the wrong accent for this topic because I don't sound like I'm from Igbo or anything. But nevertheless, these are narrations that are out there, and we're trying to condense it to have a real understanding because the Biafran narrative is now still a recurring decimal within the Nigerian space. So just to give some background understanding to the Biafra thing, this is really the object of this exercise. So my input is very minimal. I'm just reading really what people are saying. And the people making these comments are mainly from the East. So I'll come off the screen and let you have the floor to express yourself. So carry on.
Yes. Let me say one thing. I hope you are hearing me clearly. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. So I'm coming off the screen and giving you the floor so you can fully say what you want to say. So just
yes,
carry on. Just carry on.
You are hearing me.
I can hear you. We cannot hear you. Yeah,
okay.
Carry on.
Okay. To start with, most of these Igbo chaps that are telling you that you are wrong or generally telling that Nigeria attacked them, they were born 15 to 20 years after the Civil War. So their stories is based on what their father told them or their parents told them. Okay? The man you are mentioning, Mbazulike Amechi, I happen to know him. The man always comes to Benin when he's going to the East. We lived in Benin before the war. I was born in the 50s. We used to know him. So if he's telling the story, because it was Minister of Aviation, if he's telling the story, yes, there may be a little lie, but most of what the man said may be true. But people are now going against him. Okay, the few things I saw.
Just to interrupt you, John. Somebody like sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, then you have to forgive me, Aman or your man, as I often say. Somebody like Mbazulike Amechi, he has no reason to lie against
Exactly.
Ojukwu because he is an Igbo man. He wants Biafra. He's a senior man now in his late 70s, if not early 80s.
No,
He's a
90s.
respected.
The man is in his 90s.
He has absolutely no. So why would a 90-year-old man lie, other than to give account of what he saw and felt at the time? So you can't accuse him of lying, and you can't accuse him of being anti-Igbo because you don't get more Igbo than Mbazulike Amechi. So I just wanted to add that. So carry on, John.
Okay, right. So as I said earlier, most of these boys, they are saying that are born 15 years, 20 years after Civil War. They don't know what they are talking about. Okay. You said ignorant. I think what happened to our leader, he was my leader then. Ojukwu was our leader. I'm an Igbo guy. Was being arrogant and being educated. Okay. When you give power to somebody who does not deserve the power, he misbehaved. Do you know why I say so? I said that because Ojukwu was not the highest Igbo officer after what do you call it, General Aguiyi. He wasn't. He was like number 2 or number 3. But because he went to school, he was the highest educated man in military then, and the father was known, the father was rich. That's why Ojukwu became the governor of Eastern region.
Which is exactly what I said.
The highest Igbo ranking man, okay, was from a place called Oketiti. His name was Lieutenant Colonel, what's his last name? I forgot. Ezana. Lieutenant Colonel Ezana. Okay? He was the highest, though they are all Lieutenant Colonels. Even Gowon was Lieutenant Colonel, but there's hierarchy of Lieutenant Colonels. Ojukwu was not the highest. But because of education and who the father was, they made him the governor of Eastern region. Okay? That's why he started behaving arrogantly. He decided what will happen, just what is happening with the IPOB now. You know? So that was it. Russia coming in, he refused Russia to support them. That is not what we heard. I didn't hear that, but I saw a clip of the Biafran war. I don't know if all of them saw it, because later, because of the social media, you'll be seeing different clips. I saw a clip where French troops were in Biafra land. French. They didn't fight, but they was there trying to direct Biafra. Immediately, Port Harcourt was captured, because that was all it is. French troops disappeared. They disappeared from Biafra land. So they were
because you have to understand. Sorry to interrupt you, John. You have to understand that there were high stakes at play then. Oil had just recently been discovered, and the bulk of it was in that region. So if Ojukwu had been a bit more astute, and if he wasn't as brash and arrogant as people have described, then he could have used that oil to negotiate with all these international countries that, look, we have a lot of oil here, and if we secede, then you, of course, get access to that oil. So, of course, all these French, Russian, etc., even the United States, they would have backed him. But, of course, they said he was just brash and dismissive of everybody. And this is not me saying this, it's Umba Zulike Amechi that said that. So, carry on, John.
Yeah, he refused. You know, though we are young then, but at least later we'll know what happened. Okay? Now, you say you want to fight for your freedom. Nobody argue about you. All Igbo supported him. When you say all Igbo should leave other part of Nigeria, 90% of us left, we went back to the east because what he said. Okay? But the question I asked as an older man now, I'm in my 60s now, okay? The question I'm asking, why don't you, if you want to have peace negotiation with Nigeria, why, I never heard that, maybe he said so, but nobody has said it, okay? Why didn't he request for compensation for all those Igbos killed in the north? I don't know, maybe you have heard of that. He never asked for compensation. All what he want to go and fight a war. At least a dead person is a dead person, cannot come back in the war again.
Sorry to interrupt you, John. Because what I'm just going to put you on mute because I'm getting what this chief, what the Mazi is saying, Amechi, is that had Ojukwu used the Igbo seniors at that time, like himself, etc., then they would have gone to the north because he had a relationship with Aminu Kano, and Michael Okpara had access to people like Awolowo. Then they would have used tact and diplomacy to negotiate a position that would have averted that war. But what they are saying was that what he in particular is saying is that the arrogance and the brashness of this guy would not allow for that. Instead of using the senior Igbos at that time, he gathered them all and just threw them all in prison. So this is what he said. What says you, John? John?
Well, we were young then. We were like 10, 11 years old. So we don't have any say. We just be listening to our dad telling us what Ojukwu was saying. That how it was it. But now, as an older man, what I was saying, if ever the war went on, did he make any initial effort to say, okay, you have massacred 800,000 Igbos in the north, now you have to compensate the family because there's no way they can come back again to this earth. They are all dead. Did he say that? No. I never hear a place you could negotiate it. All what he wants is to get Biafra. Okay? So what people were saying later is that why he refused to give the oil to Russia or France is that he wants to run it himself. They want to
Yes,
run the whole business.
this is what in one of the things that I read out. This is, I think it was actually what's the name of the group? Just bear with me 1 second. Biafra
Okay.
Zionist group. Yeah, this is what federation or something. This is what they are saying, that he made that critical mistake of not negotiating with Russia, and he did not understand international diplomacy at that time, because that oil was a real potent tool that they could have used to weigh in its own favor. Maybe he'll just give them concession for 10 years and say, okay, take oil for 10 years and then help me for this war and then get out of here. But this is what people are saying, and it tallies with what you are saying. So finish your point, John, and I'm happy for you to stay. And then I'll read out the 6 reasons again, so just so people know the reasons, and then we carry on the conversation. So finish your thought.
Okay, one more thing, yeah, before I leave, okay? I think if you want to defend yourself, the first thing to do is to falsify your border. You understand what I'm saying? If I'm a general with the way I think, I want to defend my people. The first thing after creating the army or whatever is to falsify my border. Ojukwu never fortify his border. All what he did was to go and invade Middletown region. You see,
Yes, what they said. Sorry to keep interrupting you, John. What they said, and this is again in the account, and I'll put a link to all the things. What they said was that that war he led it more with emotion than strategizing. So rather than use his military training and that education that he wants, rather than use that, he was so subsumed by the rage of what was happening that he acted more out of emotion than strategy and planning. And this, again, a critical failing. John?
Yes?
Yeah,
Yes,
carry
it
on.
was. Yeah, it was. It was a real critical failure. Okay? How can you invade other regions when you have not even prepared yourself to defend your own people? Okay? So that's a very critical mistake he made. And you notice when the war started from Midwestern region coming, nobody supported him anymore. Initially, when they went to Benin, went to Sapele, Warri, people were supporting the Biafran troop. But what happened, what they did to people, Igbo man will never tell you this, what they did to people in the Mission region, people never supported them. Okay? There was no killing in Mission region until the federal troop came in. Because with anger, the Mission region started killing the Igbos because what the Biafran soldiers did to them. Maybe you can go and verify what Biafran soldiers did in Mission region. Crimes and atrocities they did in Mission region. But Igbo man will never tell you that. You see? So I'm going to end here and then listen to you. I have something to do.
No, before you go, just to go along, because we did actually, just to what you're saying, listen to this paragraph, John, and this is the account from the chief Mbazulike Amechi. So I'll read you this paragraph. It says, but however, so many people were killed in the pogrom, but the question was what the leaders who would have changed things like Saudana of Sokoto were killed. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was killed. Mayor Malari, the highest northern military man, was killed. So if you were the northerners, would you not react? So this is really, you see the attribution there, because
Yes.
of course we tend to forget or disregard all of these things. So in that first coup now, the virtual elite of the northern space was wiped out. And then, of course, they had no option but a reaction. The Saudana of Sokoto was killed. Tafawa Balewa was killed. Mia Malari was killed, the highest northern military man. So, of course, that is by its own self is an invitation to war. What do you make of that, John? Before and you don't have to go if you
yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Let me say. You just reminded me of that. Let me say something about it. An Igbo boy Okay, I don't want to mention what state he comes from. And Igbo boy says one day, he said, if you kill one of my family, that's what Igbo boy was saying. If you kill one of my person and he has the chance to finish your village, he will finish it. So that's what happened. But people will not tell you that. Okay, when the queue, the one that this guy from Delta, the Delta Igbo guy, started. What his name is again? The what they call Kaduna Nzogo. How can you kill all non-Igbo ministers? You never touch your own Igbo people. You look at it. You look at it if it's that's the right thing to do. If you want to clean the corruption from society, you clean the corruption regardless of tribe, regardless of where they come from. Okay? But what they did is after killing the non-Igbo ministers, all the Igbo ministers were saved. That is an indication that something was fishy. That's what I said. The Igbo boy said it. If you kill one of my person, if you can finish your village, you finish your village. That's what the Hausas, the Northerners reacted. That's what the way they reacted. But Igbo man will not sit down.
And just on that, just on that,
so that is how
and just on that word, John,
yes, go ahead.
you know, there's a lot of pointing in the direction of the Yorubas regarding treachery and all of that stuff. But you know that quite a number of Yoruba officers fought for Ojukwu and fought on the Biafra side. Let me give you a list of names, just some names to conjure with. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Fola Oyewole, he fought for Ojukwu because, of course, Ojukwu was his senior and he loved the man. Lieutenant Colonel Victor Banjo, he fought for Ojukwu. Major Wale Ade Moyega and others, they all fought for Ojukwu on the Biafra side. So there's a lot. The point that I'm trying to bring out is that it's not just this simplistic idea that everybody was waged against the Igbos. But of course, that war should never have happened, and it continues to pain all of us. But there are so many permutations in the build-up to that war. The killings of the Southerners, as we've already described, the lack of preparedness by Ojukwu, as we've already described, the even input of our Yoruba soldiers who felt so impassioned by Ojukwu's movement that they took up arms and followed him, as we've already described. So it is not just this simple-minded narration that we're hearing in this day and time, disregarding elements of history and just listening to a singularity of voice to say that everybody waged against us when that was not exactly what happened at the time. John, before you go, final thoughts.
Okay, my final thought is I didn't know most of the Yoruba you mentioned, but I know of Victor Banjo. Victor Banjo was a popular one, everybody know. Okay. And I learned that Ojukwu killed him. I don't know, but that was the story we heard. Then a lot of Midwestern, that is Delta and Edo today. Most of those army officers was behind Ojukwu. You see, they were supporting Biafra until what happened in Midwestern region happened. Okay, that's what all pull off. And then
can you remind us what happened there for the benefit of the younger listeners?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let me tell you what. See, I'm an Igbo boy. I was born in Benin. A lot of Igbos were in Benin. Okay. When they say we should go back home, okay, as kids, our parents pack all of us, take us back to the east. We'll continue our well, in the east they call it elementary, in middle they call it primary school. So nothing happened. So they went back and brought us all the way back from east back to Benin. Okay, so we continue our school because nothing happened. The Igbos are still there, not like when they ran away from Lagos, or we are still there in Middletown State. Nothing was happening. Okay, we're going to our school. Suddenly, around the first week or second week of June, Biafran troops just surround Middletown region, just occupying all over Benin, Sapele, Warrior, and what they did, they stopped school. There was no school anymore, no work anymore, nothing. Everything was standstill. Okay? Everything was standstill. Then they created curfew. This is what I saw. This is the story. They created curfew. Curfew was from 7 to 6. And once they see you after 6, there was no war in Benin. We are still peaceful. After 6, the type of beating Biafra will give to you, you will not regret it in your life. Okay? Then you start wondering, no business, the only business we have in Benin is trading. And most of the traders were able people. No office, nothing, no school. We don't go to school. Everybody sit down at home doing nothing. And they were beating people like crazy all over Benin City. The same thing they say happened in Sapele or happened in
You
Warri,
see,
but I don't see that.
sorry to keep interrupting you, John.
Crazy.
But
Yes.
sorry to keep interrupting you, John. But these are just some of the details that we need to be coming out, because this again adds to the narrative. Because of course, a lot of the attributions of the atrocities during that war goes in the direction of Gowon and his people. But then, of course, the Biafran soldiers, as you are now describing, they were quite brutal with some of the populations
Very,
that
very
had.
brutal.
Yeah.
They are my people. They are my people. They are Igbo people. I'm an Igbo man, but very brutal. But we saw it. This is not storytelling. So people who are defending Biafra, maybe they are in the east. They were not living outside the eastern region. That's what they didn't say it. Any Igbo man that lives in the western part will tell you the truth. But if you tell them the truth, you become the enemy. The next thing they will tell you, you will never come to Igbo land. You will never come to Igbo land. No, tell them the truth to know where we made the mistake and let's correct it again. Okay? So, but they will never. I saw it with my eye. I saw the beating and everything. Mr. One Mongo to know.
And when you're talking about beating, you're talking about the beating of the Biafran soldiers on the people of then Bendel State.
Yeah, that is the beating of Biafran soldiers on civilians. Biafran soldiers were committing atrocity upon atrocity in Benin City. I'm using Benin because that's what I saw. Atrocity on Benin, beating.
On the indigenous.
On the indigenous, both Igbo people, if they see you after 6 o'clock, you can speak Igbo from here to tomorrow. Now lie. They will finish you. They will beat hell out of you. They say they told you not to come out. My question I'm asking most people now is that how can a man that have children, has a wife, you say he should not go to work, how will he feed his family? There was no work. The office was closed totally. How can you feed the family? You didn't say, okay, now we are here to rescue you people. We are in Middle Century to rescue you. You didn't say that. You did not say, okay, now stop using Nigerian money. Use Biafra currency so you can still feed your parents. But you see
it was called a pound at the time, Biafran pound.
Yeah, pounds. You know? The irony in it, let me tell you what was on. So sometimes you wonder, is this was it funny or not? The irony in it is that you come and say people will not work, but you still allow them to be using Nigerian money. Because if you want to go and buy things in those days, we are still using Nigerian pounds, so not Biafra pounds. So, you know, so it was a crazy type of I don't know if I call it wall of confusion that Ojukwu and his men did not know what to do. They just jumped into war.
There was no plan. There was no plan, in effect. And that is what has been coming through in everything that I've read. And you now that we are giving your first-hand account is that there was no plan. There was no plan for that.
No plan. If I didn't see it, that narrating what my father told me, I said, okay, maybe I'm lying. But I was there. We were about 10 years, 11 years. We've been Benin. That's why I mentioned Benin all the time. I don't want to mention Warrior, but we heard that the same thing was still happening. How did we run finally? It's when Biafra troops were running, we noticed that things were changing that morning. We didn't know that federal troops were already in the bushes in Benin. We never know that. Nobody knew. Even themselves, they said that our soldiers, they don't have what we call intelligent gathering. They never knew that the Nigerian troop was in Benin bush. Suddenly, everyone will start running. Then they said we're running, jumping into their is it 403? Because they will have station wagons. I think 403 station wagons. That's what they use most of the time. Okay, they don't have much of army vans, what we call army lorry. They don't have much of it. It's all this station wagon 403. We'll just get to that. They'll just hold the top of the 403. So we do for boot. They'll be dragging. That's what we notice. Now most people start running. Something's going wrong. That's how we start running towards the east. We pack it. All of us. That's how we left.
Okay, John. John.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy for you to stay, but I want to read out these 6 reasons because I think really that's why people came in. So I want to read out these 6 reasons as has been listed. And then if you're still happy to stay, then I'll come back to you to give me your final thoughts. But if you're happy to stay, I'm happy for you to stay. But if you have other things to do, then I'll say thank you. So you make that decision. Are you happy to stay or do you want to go do something else? John?
No. I'm just do something. I'll be listening to you. Whoever comes in and says something that I feel that I have an idea of, I can call back in and tell you my own opinion. Okay. Now,
okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you for your input. So that was John. He had a first-hand experience of the Nigerian Civil War. So it's not even from the history books. It's not even them say. This is a man, and it was at pains to let us know that he's an Igbo man. So this is a man now, an Igbo man with a direct first-hand experience of the Civil War, and he is painting us a picture that is different from the picture that is the popular narrative. But then we go through those 6 reasons again, those 6 mistakes that Ojukwu made during the Civil War. So I'll just take it from the top completely again, because of course I know that is why most people are here. So on Tuesday, May the 30th, the pro-Biafra people carried out a sit-home exercise in remembrance of the heroes and heroines of Biafra. Ojukwu is a name that rings a bell when it comes to Biafra and Nigerian history. He is heralded as the veteran who spearheaded the attempted secession of the Igbo people. But beyond the heroic stories that have been heard about Ojukwu, there are certain bad decisions that he took during the war. So these are the 6 reasons now. So Nzeogwu's death is the first mistake that they are attributing to Ojukwu. Nzeogwu's death. He let them kill Nzeogwu the Great. People rumored that he was afraid Nzeogwu will challenge his authority after the war. Nzeogwu was defined as a man who would stop at nothing to ensure that those in power do not abuse it. So that's the first reason. The second reason that they are attributing as a mistake of 6 mistakes that was made by Ojukwu during the Nigerian Civil War was dethroning generals. The stories have been told of how Ojukwu dethroned his generals because they tried to advise him and made civilians his war generals, e.g. Colonel Achuzia. So that is the second mistake that has been attributed. The third mistake, going into battle without solid plans. So this is something, of course, that we've also heard John cite examples of. So the third mistake, going into battle without solid plans. It is said that Ojukwu was in the habit of not planning his battles. He just fought with emotions. There are reports that everyone who tried to advise him got deposed and thrown into prison. A Biafran high-ranking officer once narrated in his book how he drove from Enugu to war front at Abakaliki, only to discover that Biafran soldiers who were dropped by Ojukwu and were facing the Nigerian superior military might punishment didn't even dig trenches. So no trenches being dug to even insulate the men from the other faction of the war. So this is the general now. So he continues. So he ordered them to start digging trenches right at the battlefield. So the battle was already afoot when certainly this guy then had to then tell them to start digging trenches. So you can use your imagination as per that. This, he said, prevented the Nigerian tanks from overrunning the Biafrans on the very first day of battle. Ojukwu did not plan the preparation of the war. He just started fighting with the available resources. He should have got big countries like America and Britain to support Biafra, at least in exchange for oil. So I'm not quite sure how much Britain would have supported Biafra, because of course the rumors would have it that the British were backing the Nigerian state. Gowon, for instance, agreed with Cameroon not to let Biafrans get weapon supplies from the Cameroonian border in exchange for the Bakassi Peninsula. So that was how Nigeria lost Bakassi. That was a war transaction done by Gowon. This alone made the Biafran resistance very miserable. So we go on to the fourth reason, child soldiers. When the men had been killed, Ojukwu started arming children and using them as soldiers for battle, a development that could be seen as a war crime. So, of course, child soldier, that is something that is the almost one of the faces that Africa is identified by. But then, of course, it happens a lot in the South Americas as well. But child soldier is something that a lot of people frown on. So the fifth reason, porters. Biafran medics never had stretchers from day one. They were called porters because they were often made up of 4 men who would carry the wounded on their head and run to the rear of the battlefield. This was to get worse in the 3rd year of the war, as Biafran soldiers left their wounded and fled the battlefields. So this is the thing now. So just look at that in terms of morale, just in terms of morale at the war front. So somebody gets shot and is then just lumped on the shoulders of people, and they're then running him through that battlefield as people are engaged in the throes of battle, seeing one of their colleagues just being just lumped away in that fashion. So that's again is one of the 6 attributions. So the 6th attribution, general, is truce. So the 6th attribution is truce. That's Truce, truce. So General Ojukwu should have more intelligently accepted a truce a year or 2 before the end of the war, when men like Zeke, Akunu, Ibiam, and a host of others advised him it was impossible to win the war. He refused to quit the war after the 1st year on seeing that the Igbos can't win. So that's the 6. Those are the 6 reasons. So what you make of it, I'll come find out in the comment section in a moment. But I have put the hyperlink there. If anybody wants to come on, just come on. I'm still going to go through this piece. Then when I come on, if you are already clicked to come and engage with me, then I'll just put you on. So let's just round this off. When the war became so bitter and the Biafran weapons got finished, he would load hundreds of young people into trailers and arm them. And this is quite shocking, actually. Let me take that from the top again. When the war became so bitter and the Biafran weapons got finished, because of course he had no alliance for weaponry, and Gowon had blocked off the borders of Cameroon to have for him to have access to weaponry. So when the war became so bitter and the Biafran weapons got finished, he would load hundreds of young men into trailers, and listen to this. So he would load hundreds of young men into trailers and arm them with clubs and machetes and dump them at the war front. So this is what is being said now. Anyway, just imagine that for a moment. Pause and imagine that. So they don't quite have AK-47 at that time, I don't imagine, but they certainly had multiple loading rifles, and then you arm people with clubs and machetes to go and face a trained and a drilled army that is in a formation line and charge at them with clubs and machetes. So anyway, he would tell the young men that Hausas are fools, kill them all. So this was the chant then. The Nigerian war tank will just lower its 50s and open fire on unarmed Biafran soldiers in the war front. There is no doubt that Ojukwu was a Biafra patriot and a warrior of great courage. He gave his all to the war, surviving by the whiskers. However, like we all humans, we have our flaws, and history is recorded so that mistakes of the past are not repeated. So these are the reasons being adduced. So let's now come back into the room to see what people are making of it. We've got David up. Hello, David. What says you?
Hello,
Hello, David. Yeah, I can't hear you. I'll give you the floor. Yes, I'll give you the floor. Introduce yourself and then tell us what your take is. I won't come in unless your system is not good. So I'll come off the screen, then you introduce yourself and tell us how you are positioned.
Yes, just to check again, hopefully you can hear me. My name is David Table. I am a Biafran to start with, and I'm from the Ijaw extraction and Ijaw man. I live here in the United Kingdom, and of course, we are from the mid 80s generation. You know, we were born into our contraption. We had different stories about the Biafra War and everything. And to start with, I want to commend you for bringing up this kind of program, you know, because it's all about enlightenment, hearing the narrative, the stories, even though we like them and we don't like them. Particularly, this conversation is talking about the mistakes that were made during the war. And in as much as this is a sensitive conversation, and from the comments here, you can see some people being objective and with different points. It's welcome, but we must understand that when it comes to warfare, strategies, um, agreements, you meet with people, you discuss about these things. It is true, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. I'm a full supporter of Biafra, and there was mistake from the Biafran side because if we look at the Nigerian army's formation today, of course, Biafra could have withheld the Nigerian army. Despite the support from the external forces like Britain and Russia and all those other places. But one thing we did not deal, which I am in favor of this conversation, which does not make me an anti-Biafran, but it's a fact. There must have been some mistakes carried out by the leadership. And if just to say trenches were not digged, that is a colossal mistake because
That's just basic stuff, isn't it? That's just basic stuff, isn't it? Trenches not being dug because this is an account from a senior Biafran ranking officer. He traveled from Enugu to Abakaliki, which was the war front then, and to his surprise, he met the soldiers not really insulated in trenches, and those trenches, what the idea was to dig them in staccatos so that the tankers cannot even come in. They will just end up in a ditch. So that is already a buffer. And then, of course, it serves as a buffer for the so something as basic as that is almost unforgivable. Carry on.
No, in fact, definitely. But we can see the mistake we made, and the important thing is moving up. Like just to say how our leader of today, Mazen Namdekano, is going on. We can see the diligence and patience. We can see the formation is creating in place. These are the things that, unfortunately, as we can see, our beloved brother, which no one can deny, is a love for Biafran people. Ojukwu, the mistake he made. No one can. But that does not mean that we cannot see from these mistakes, accept them, and move from them. So right now, with the present situation Nigeria is going through, we don't act based on emotions and do things without calculating all our moves. So I just wanted to add this into this conversation.
Hold on. I can't let you get away with that. Are you saying that Nnamdi Kanu does not act on emotion? Because for me, he seems to be entirely led by emotions.
No, like I say, it's all about how we all are entitled to how we
It looks
perceive
as
the
though he's
way.
about to repeat those same mistakes, actually, to me,
No, I do not. I think right now, I
because
think right now,
it's just doing bombasticness and priming and peacocking and shouting and whatnot. But and that to me is just emotion led.
yeah,
I'm just
there
playing
might be.
devil's advocate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of
Carry
course,
on.
definitely. We have to be of, what the one of the biggest mistakes we black people make is this, our the denial of being objective in seeing things. Because you do not see it from this way, that means you are enemy. No, 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 no. In fact, you not seeing it from this perspective
Mm.
gives me the ability to see where there is a mistake. I am not saying entirely that our leader Martin Amdekanu may not have sound sometimes emotional, but I think from the way he has been dealing with the situation, even the threat, the way he even launched the ESN and all those things, they have been, I think from my own perspective, he has been studying the events, the changing of events, and bringing out his moves. Right now, as we talk, the way the Nigerian matter is the marginalization we take. Of course, you will be emotional. I too, myself, sometimes it makes you go mad, because it's insanity the way things are going and how people even manage to condone them. So of course, it makes you emotional. But a leader must be able to separate emotions from clarity. And
Mm.
as black people, we've made these mistakes a lot. Even in the Americas, it's going on in the Caribbean. If you follow all the black struggles, you will see that most of the times we would have, where would have made my son, we ended up shooting ourselves on the foot, because we were not able to separate the emotions, because we are emotional beings anyway. But for the
Yes.
fact of the war,
That is our greatest strength, and this is just a loose statement. Not every black person, but that is our greatest strength and our greatest failing, just being led by emotions. And you are right. Just as a general thing, you find that more with black people than most. They just act on emotions.
yeah, which is something is an individual thing we all must have to learn on. But like I say, it's just for we the general public watching your program right now to be open minded, that because we are hearing this narrative that they were in trenches, there were mistakes made. This thing shouldn't be anything where people should feel angry about. Instead, people should be open minded towards it and
Uh,
see
uh,
where we can learn from it.
yeah, two more things that I want to take your thoughts on. The second question will be I will want you to describe Biafra to me as your wish, how you wish it. But the first question is that last mistake that was described, that hundreds, countless young men were being ferried in trailers, armed with clubs and machetes, and thrown at the war front to go and kill the Hausas, who were, of course, carrying sophisticated machine guns. So you are launching young men with clubs in battlefront against people with sophisticated machine guns. What do you make of that?
I think,
And then describe Biafra to me how you would like to see it.
yes, thank you very much. I think, because when you look the Aburi Accord, and when the war was when Nigeria declared war on Biafra, I think everything was in fast forward. Well, everything was just so fast, whereby I don't think there was diligent consultation before even the war was declared. We only know about the Aburi Accord. We don't know what other meetings were going apart from the Aburi Accord. That being said, I think that was one of the reasons that led Ojukwu, General Ojukwu, to start to go on the war without being prepared, because it was a war that started without, Biafra was called, like, from my narrative from my parents, it was like, the Biafrans were not even really ready, because at the time, just like the agitation going now by the Oduduwas, it was something like that going on. There was a cry for Biafra, all this thing, and all of a sudden Nigeria has declared war on Biafra. So that was when the call to arms, because I have family members. Two of my uncles died in Biafra war. though we still reverend them as heroes, but because they believed in what they fought. My father today is still a believe. They were the ones that, even though Nigeria, Biafra surrendered, they did not surrender in their mind, and that was why
Mm.
they see people like the Kanu very. They pray for him every day because they see like this guy, what we wanted is coming back. But the generality of everything was there was unpreparedness, and unpreparedness leads to damnable consequences, which we paid for, which Biafra paid for. The Nigerian government at the time, don't forget, was already a state, already had functioning bodies. So Nigeria had
Yeah.
superiority towards compared to Biafra. The Nigerian government already had
Mm.
superiority in all those things. But I think because of the way the war was declared,
Sorry to interrupt you, David. But what you described is do we not feel a sense of deja vu with regards to what we have on the floor right now? Because again, the Nigerian state is even more heavily armed. Is probably the most armed state, at least in the West African sub-region. And of course, we were not. Is it Eastern Security Network that is the panacea? I mean, what are we talking about? Are we not
you see,
seeing
you see, you
history
see
about
I
to
will,
repeat?
I will say something because at the end of the day, all war is won by the resilience of the mind. It's not by the amount of gunfire or cannon being dropped. Um, right now, I know and thank God for this generation and how knowledge is now being available to everybody except you don't want to learn. Right now, I am very certain and confident in my mind that if be it that war should break again, if there should be a Biafra 0.2, we are more prepared because one, the amount of educated people, because you know what, you have to put in mind that the young people of today, we have understand the science of making unconventional firearms or stuff to protect ourselves. So don't laugh at it. Don't laugh at it because
No,
this
no, but you are speaking the narrative of then. The narrative of then, Ojukwu time, was the superiority of the mind of the Igbo people and their innovativeness and their being able to couple together. Still till today, still till today, the Igbos talk about the ingenious ways that they were able to fashion weaponry. So that was the narrative then, and it's exactly that superiority of mind that you are referencing was the reference then. So
but
again, it is deja vu.
no, sir, you must bear in mind that today the Igbos are the more exposed people. They've made friends abroad. They have made good friends that are willing to help.
But
Don't forget that.
that was
Don't forget.
that was the case at that time too, is my
At the, no,
point.
no, at the time, no, at the time, Black Africa was not. We were still under colonialism and slavery. Black Africa did not even have we were not even able to move for the freedom we have
But
today in the West. We didn't have it
The
at the
Igbos
time.
were, hold on, the Igbos were the most advanced in Nigeria at that time, the most
But
educated,
not with the
and,
exposure.
and the most traveled. And Ojukwu, well, they all went to Sandhurst and Oxford and whatnot. Most of the Igbos were already in education when people were still in the farms.
You see, you
So
see,
as at now, it was then. That is my point.
one thing we must not undermine, and we must always put into consideration because as you and I are talking, we have seen um, movements going out there in the diaspora, and we have seen the unison of people coming together. Like I said again, Biafra has good friendship, and Nigerian borders are so porous that you can bring anything inside of Nigeria if you know who you want to deal with. For instance, I am not saying I know too much, but I know you can get things into Nigeria. You can get things, and which ESN is benefiting. But not to say the ESN has always made it clear that they are not engaging the Nigerian army. They are only securing the forest, our people. But before I forget, let me go to your second question. You said about
Mm.
Biafra. What do I think about Biafra? You see,
What do you
um,
want? How do you what
how do I want
describe
my
Biafra?
Biafra? You see,
Yeah.
um, one thing I will start with is, until you don't leave the shores of Africa, except you are not from the middle class or the elite to an extent, until you don't leave the shore of Africa, ignorance be, betides the person. I am a I'm a victim of that as well. I thank God I left Africa in a young age, and I've come to the West, and I've managed to understand what freedom is, what liberty is, and what the human mind can create for himself. I believe in the ingenuity of the Biafrans. I believe in the Biafran state that it's going to be a place whereby black people once can come in agreement to build something for themselves. Because the yearning of building something for ourselves is different from the narrative in South Sudan. It's different from the narrative in Ethiopia. I have spoken to people and I've tried to hear from their minds like what is the nationhood they are looking for, and I can see in Biafra what we are asking for is it's I am not trying to compare with the West, but I think it's something that's going to be uniquely an upliftment for we black people and perhaps a beacon to others, because we have every human resource to make a nationhood. We have done it. By, like I say, I thank God to come from a parents that served under Okpara, and despite an Ijaw man, you know, he has never been biased. He has said it where the Igbo went wrong and where they did not went wrong. But under the leadership, you know, there was a difference in the whole continent. So I believe that the Biafra that we all yearn for, the Biafra we are all crying for, is going to be a place that it will perhaps not meet everybody's justice 100%, but it will.
Land of milk and honey.
Say again, sir.
I said land of milk and honey. You are
No,
describing
no,
a
no.
land.
I'm not talking about
You are,
Ethiopia. No, no.
you are,
That is
you are
now.
describing Narnia.
No, no, that, sir, yeah, that is fantasy. That is, I get your point. That is fantasy because we have to put our foot on the ground. The foot on the ground is, I believe, we will create a space that will give us a sense of justice better than Nigerian can give us because we have to try
Who
it
is
first.
going to lead Biafra? Who is going to
Okay,
lead Biafra?
this
Definitely
is
not Kano. Definitely not
no, no,
Kano.
no. And
Yeah.
Kanu has said it. Kanu has said it with countless times that he is not interested of being Biafra president. He just only wants to be. He is only fighting to actualize the Biafra. Then we can do. He even said, "Do you people want a republic? You want a federation? What do you want?" It is the people that will decide what they want. And if we can, for once, see it from that perspective, that this guy is not interested in the power. I know people change, but we haven't got to that place to start distrusting that he might become power hungry like the other African presidents. But I do not see Kanu close to that kind of personality. So I am not worried in that sense. But the fact that if Biafra comes to this, sir, even you yourself, you people are one of the people that we're even looking up to because to start with, the resources we're talking about, the educated ones, it's your generation. It's your generation that Nigeria has cheated. Your generation were the one who went to school, got the Nigerian that was working. But look at what Nigeria turned to. So we have people like you across board that I know that the good that it's not about the good ones, it's the environment that makes you become corrupt. That these are people that they can come and make a change in the lives of their people. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about it. And even from what the international bodies are doing right now, don't forget,
Okay.
sir. Before I
Let's
go, don't forget.
let's talk about before you go. So let me just let's talk about realism. So how
Yes.
realistic is the prospect of Biafra? So an honest opinion, not emotion led, not what you want, but in terms of realism. So I'll give you the options. Is a confederation within Nigeria with sub-nations, Biafra having a sub-nation, Oduduwa, etc., or an outright secession for a country called Biafra. So how realistic is the prospects of a secession of a Biafra, and do you have a time scale for it?
You see, we have to go through the legal process that is already in place. I have not ruled out the force majeure that's going on, which has the international body monitoring it. I so that being said, going into confederation with Nigeria, Nigeria has failed us. You can't believe the same lie multiple times. That means it's insanity. I do not believe in confederation with Nigeria. I believe people should have the freedom to decide what they want to be or what they don't want to be. Right now, the way the Nigeria is, the way the resources are being divided, I wish the 1963 constitution was followed. Maybe perhaps we wouldn't be having this conversation. But right now, the Nigeria that it is, the way it is setting, we cannot build on falsehood anymore. So confederation is useless. The problem we're having is that people are just being afraid of exploiting their human resource. The North is well endowed, but they have, because they did not educate their people enough or enlighten their people enough. They have this fear of a population. They'll be left with population of under-educated people. No, you can see turn that around. Just likewise in the South and the East. But a confederate Nigeria, I don't believe, because right now, that's why I am one of the people that, in as much as I promote for the African free trade, with what is going on in Nigeria, I think all those things are futile. It will not work because we haven't still can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Okay. We haven't still sort out these our differences internally. Then how can we start doing the African free trade thing? So that's why on that one I am realistic. I don't believe in one Nigeria, and right now, even carrying the Nigerian passport, I am not even proud of it. I identified myself as Biafra.
But you go to renew your passport at the Nigerian embassy.
I got to renew my passport, but thank God I have 2 passports. So it is a personal choice now that I don't need the Nigerian passport. That does not stop me from coming to Nigeria. But
but your ancestrally you are Nigerian. Your history for centuries.
I am.
You are Biafran.
Another problem. You see, this is another problem where we black people, we have to change this, because we keep taking up all these names that in as much as we don't want to accept them, but they have an adverse effect on us. To start with, can we for once start having conversation around this word Nigeria? Is it something that we can?
But even the United States of America was named by the British. Canada was named by the British. It's just a name.
It's just a name, but the word Nigeria, it has now even been proven by scholars here in the West that it is not. It is what is the nigger thing is involved in it as well. It is a name created out of prejudice, hatred for people, subhuman. So
you are going into new territory now.
No, it's not new territory. That is why we say it's better for we, because if we want to be together.
No, it was named. It was named after the River Niger. That's all of it. There's no nigger to it or whatever.
But what
so just abandon that.
What was the River Niger called before we encountered with the Europeans?
Whatever it was called, I have no recollection. I won't say recollection. I have no knowledge of what it was called. But it was certainly the name Nigeria was named after the word after River Niger, effectively, which is the big river that runs through the Nigerian space.
I think to start with, we should start thinking about, because if we want to talk about this to keep the one Nigeria alive, to start with, like I said, there are many Nigerians, and we need to give people credit for their own diverse opinion. Not everybody settles with the name Nigeria anymore. I don't see that name as something like worth identifying with. So if we can start having conversations,
do you support the Super Eagles?
The Nigerian Super Eagle has been.
Don't lie.
No, sir. I don't support.
Do you support the Super Eagles? You don't. In the World Cup. If the Super Eagles are playing in the World Cup, you don't support them.
They have never made me proud, so I have never supported
them. No. That's different. That's a different answer. Do you want them to win
the World Cup?
In the World Cup, and bring the World Cup back to Lagos or Abuja or wherever? Do you want them to win? Yes or no?
Let me be unbiasedly with you now on this one. My indigenousness to that space wants me to support them.
No, that's a yes. Just say yes.
No. That's it. But
don't hide behind the Biafra flag. Just say yes. You want Nigeria to win in it. Of course you do. Of course you do.
You make a point. Let's be honest with ourselves. We are at the end of the day, we are all talking about injustice here, because we are Nigerians. We are so
yes. That is no. Now you are landing on the point. The real point is the injustice. That is the real point. If there was not injustice, there would not be the cry for Biafra.
You are very right, sir.
There would not be the cry for Biafra, because if Nigeria works, it's a beautiful thing, to have 200 million strong people, successful and ready to take on the world, united, with you holding on to the hand of your Yoruba colleague, and he's holding on to the hand of his Hausa Fulani, and we're marching forward together. It's a beautiful thought, but it is the injustice really that is the real killer. That for me is the thing. So 2 more questions before you go. Are you subscribed to the channel, and have you liked the video?
I have
So
liked
do
the
that.
video. That's why I joined this. In fact, when I saw the hyperlink, and when I think 10 minutes after the video started, I was following you, listening to your presentation and your guests you brought in that spoke. And the reason why I chose to speak to you was because the comments that was coming was just still the same comments that we Nigerians we don't want to elevate ourselves from. You know, this thing whereby I don't know, maybe because my mind is being liberated from self-hate. That's why I don't feel offended. But you know, sometimes when you see comments popping up and you're like, why can't we think critically? Not because somebody is trying to educate all of us on mistakes that was made during the war. Nobody takes Ojukwu from your mind from being your internal leader. Nobody takes that from
He's
you.
still a great man. I admire him greatly. Yeah.
Acknowledging mistake. That, in fact, that was why I found it interesting. Acknowledging mistake, because if right now, because we are all directly and indirectly affected by what is going on in Nigeria, whether you are in the country or you're not in the country, it still meets you somehow. So this is a matter that interests all of us. How can we not make the same mistake so issue does not repeat himself? Now we know, for instance, now what you said, because this information is going far. For instance, now I believe that open-minded people in ESN right now in the forest who may be privileged to listen to this conversation may not see how to upgrade their security, some security settings among them there that they haven't done yet already. Because yes, it's true, you cannot see. You must have a 4D vision for you to see everything, or 3D. Sorry, I mean. But for the fact that our eyes are faced on 2D, we cannot see. You cannot see everything. You cannot see 360 degree. You can only see that 90 degree. You can see. So of course, another person telling you like, "Come, they made mistake here." Oh, you know, people can draw and learn from it. And even me myself, I just learned something from history, even though it might sound, oh, did he make this kind of mistake? A general, how could he have made this mistake? But if you look into all the events that led to the Biafra war, you will see that after the Aburi Accord and the way the war was declared, Biafra was not prepared. There is no
because they were not anticipating that they were going to war. So the war happened upon them. So they did not even, to be fair to them, they did not even have the chance to prepare, because the idea was not to go to war. The idea was to get a better deal and negotiate their way out if possible. But the war happened, and then they just had to, you know, step up.
And that was why people, like I said, two of my uncles that fought in the Biafra war, though one at the time was a Nigerian army sergeant that defected to Biafra, and the other one was just an ordinary person, just like you said. People were angry, side soldiers were even involved, you know. In as much as we don't like to hear this, side shoulder is a war crime. Kofi, how you call this guy, the guy in Uganda?
Kofi Annan.
One of the warlord.
Oh yeah. I remember him, but I can't remember his name. Yeah, carry on.
One of the counts that led to the international community putting an arrest on him was because of the excess of side soldiers he was having. Because he was now recruiting too much of side soldier, and this led the international community and every people who were concerned with the Congo, Uganda, Rwanda problem to say, come, you can't be recruiting children. You cannot be recruiting, and we'll just wash out. So that in itself is not right, but that does not mean I hate Biafra or I don't want Biafra to come. God and mine knows that if I should choose today, I would choose Biafra, because from my 35 years of living on earth, I've only seen injustice that Nigeria is bringing. Only injustice.
Will I be welcome in Biafra if I...
Definitely, definitely you will be welcome. This is one thing like the narrative there back home, and but like I said, we need to change our mentality. Because you have a different opinion does not mean you hate Biafra. Does not mean we can annihilate you totally from Biafra. No, you know. But one thing is for contributed or collaborated in sabotaging the people's advancement. Of course, there will always be a reckoning to be made, and that is just human. That is human, and that is nature's way of doing justice. So that one we cannot rule. But people like you, sir, I don't have any problem with you. I always tell people, like, those people that we think that we attack all the time because they're not saying what we want to listen. Perhaps they are the ones that can, teach this new Biafra to come, because the Biafra will need government. The Biafra will need people who already have understanding. I myself, I don't have that understanding in governance or anything. So you need people to mentor people. You need people to show leadership, and that's why I will not discard anybody, but rather we need to work to that our common interest, which is Biafra.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David, for coming on. David has taken the brief, and please come on again, because you are impassioned and you hold your views very fervently. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't agree with, but I respect your right to those views, and you express them eloquently. So that level of eloquence we want on this channel. So please, we're on 1:45 every day for the whole of this month, UK time, and 10:30. So if you're chanced and you have nothing doing, then just pop in and share your views some more. So I'll let you go as I seek to round off. So that's David. Is quite impassioned in his views. A lot of it, like I said, I agree with, a lot I don't agree with, but of course, he was brave enough to come on stream and express those views. So that's the hyperlink that David clicked on, and John as well. So if you want to click on the hyperlink and share your views before we round off, you're free to do that. So I'll just go through the comments as I wait for anyone else that wants to pop up and have a say, to have their say. So I'll take it from Showbox Africa, and he was asking what the mistakes were. So he probably asked that question before I read out the mistakes. Big man, is Tinubu not more than 80 years old? Why is he lying about his age? Tinubu is well over 80, by my reckoning. Is unstable. This is a guy that is telling us he's 70-something. Look at the ridiculousness within that Nigerian space. Only God can solve it. Showbox Africa again, I think there is sense in understanding the Western benefits. However, do think in present struggle, we should collaborate with the West in exchange for our oil. So that is in reference to some of the accusations that were leveled against Ojukwu. Here's Chris. You and your guest speaking, help us explain how you mean Ojukwu being arrogant, as you both described him. Well, the description is coming from the narration of people that were there at the time, first-hand account, which is, of course, Mba Zulike Amechi, who was the aviation minister in the First Republic and a staunch Igbo man who was subsumed in that time, a senior politician of that time. And his account was that rather than sample our senior opinions, Ojukwu showed the arrogance of being dismissive and instead gathered all the senior politicians and put them in jail, in contrast to what was happening on the other side, where the senior politicians were being sampled and put in positions. He gave the example of Awolowo being released from Calabar prison and being made immediately the vice and then the person in charge of the finance. So all of the key resources that was available to the Nigerian side, they used, but the arrogance of elitism almost that Ojukwu seemed to have at that period led him to disregard what was availed him in terms of the experience that was in the Igbo space, and that, of course, is where the attribution is coming from. So that, I hope, answers your question. So, Chooks, I wish I could speak to that guy called John. What do you think that Ojukwu went to Aburi to do? I was an adult when the Biafra was started. So if you don't know what happened, just keep quiet. Well, you had the hyperlink that John clicked on to come and voice his views, and you were invited to come and voice yours. And if you're still there, the hyperlink is still there. I'll put it there again so that you can come and voice your views. So you don't have to wish, you can just do. So this is Chris. Is it the same Chris, I wonder? No, that was Chooks that just spoke, actually. So this is now Chris. If I'm going to learn what happened during the Biafra War, should not be from this misleading account, from this pan. Quest, he is one of those who have hidden history from their children's shame. So I think we get the gist of what he's saying. Jennifer, this is not the first time hearing the story that Mr. John just enlightened us about. So this is John's first-hand account. Nobody can be dismissive of John's account because John's account is a first-hand experience of what transpired at the time. So you cannot be dismissive of somebody narrating something that he witnessed firsthand. So Jennifer, again, this is not the first time hearing the story that Mr. John just enlightened us about. If that was the fact, I see no reason why Biafrans are not reading to learn from their first mistakes. So that is the whole purpose. But of course, you expect a stream of abuse when somebody like me, especially a person from Oyo is taking on a topic like this. Showbox Africa, this is misleading. They were Nigerians. Okay, then. So this is misleading. They were Nigerians disguised as Biafran soldiers. The man talking is not an Igbo man. So just look at that statement. John was giving us accounts. John was an Igbo man living in Benin City during the time of that civil war. And he was telling us that the Benin City was a restive state at that time. It was not really fully involved in that Biafra struggle. But the Biafran soldiers nevertheless seized control of Benin City, and then they imposed a curfew that people could not go out at times that they needed to earn a living to feed their families. And when they came across anybody, they brutalized them to such an extent that the person would have been lucky to be alive after their encounter with the Biafran soldier. So that is the account that John gave us. But this person now, Showbox Africa, and this is where the problem is with everything, he's not only telling us that the people that were doing this thing that John just told us were Biafran soldiers, were actually Nigerian soldiers, not Nigerian soldiers dressed as Biafrans. He's then going on to tell us that John, a man who told us that is in his 60s and an Igbo man, is not in fact an Igbo man. Can you imagine that? He's telling somebody that is telling you that is stating that is an Igbo man, that he is not an Igbo. Look at that. Who even talks like that? Showbox Africa, my brother, you have issues, man. Sunday Annie, this month is full of your food. For 40 is your food forever. You are very beautiful. I don't know what that means, but nevertheless, that is it on your screen. Book of Rebellion, taken out of Saldana Bello with a sweet bullet between the eyes, was justified. Well, there you are, but that was what led to the Civil War. And of course, we all know that was like almost a genocidal situation. I see no reason, Jennifer says, so that will be in response to something. Jennifer goes on, Biafrans should take a decisive way to accomplish what they really want this time before going into another civil war this time, because we've long gone from the time of 1957. So that is what Jennifer says. Chris, the lesson learned are in the consideration of the Biafran army. I don't know that there is a Biafran army. Maybe that is a new thing that you are bringing into the mix. Jennifer, that was the same voice of Ojukwu then, and it's the same Mr. David just used. So I'm not sure what that means. Chris, David should actually be the voice of today. We should hear and stop living in the memories of the past. So yes, David, he expressed himself fully, and that is his voice. But even David himself is making deference to history and wanting to take the learnings from that. That is what David put across, that there are elements in history that is happy to reach to and take the learnings from that so that the mistakes don't repeat. So whatever it is that you're saying about David, he definitely is taking the learnings from the past, and that is according to himself. Chris, my dear host, please remember this discussion is about people and not one single individual. Please, please drop your differences with Nnamdi Kanu. So no differences with Nnamdi Kanu, but of course you cannot stop Biafra and not at least make a mention. Clement, the Nigerian army during the Civil War were well armed but never superior and never won the war. The Biafrans fought the world. So there you are. That is his spin on it. Emmanuel, one zoo Nigeria is big 419 UK, and all these killings from northern. So that is what Emmanuel thinks. Emmanuel, Biafra for life. I think we already deduced that from your first comment. And it goes on to hammer it down. One love Biafra, and it goes on still. One zoo Nigeria is big hell. So that is Emmanuel's view. It's quite unequivocal and quite clear. Clement, the host, is anti-Biafran, and listening to his accent is not a Biafran. Well, you don't have to listen to my accent to know that I am not Biafran. I don't think I've ever done a session and not made mention several times that I'm a full-blood Yoruba man from Oyo Alaafin. So definitely not Biafran. The host is anti-Biafran, and listening to his accent is not a Biafran. We don't even know his name. He can't pronounce Biafra, rather saying Biafra. Well, there you are. So long as that is the effect of communication is to translate the impact of what you mean. So if I say Biafra or Biafra, as you said, so long as you've understood what I meant, then the object of the exercise is complete. Jennifer, you hear that most of them are having 2 passports. What about the people that have nowhere to run when the war really breaks out? So this is the argument that a lot of people make, that are the people in the diaspora, especially the people chanting for this war from the comforts of wherever they are. I think Nnamdi Kanu will be in Oxford somewhere, somewhere in the UK, riling people on in Igbo land to go and face the bullets. So we go on. 4256 is the name of this person. Man, you are forcing words to him. What is the meaning of Nigeria? So we've already gone through that. 4256 goes on. What is that river called before European came? It's a very good question. River is English language. So, well, I don't really know what pedantic point you're trying to labor. The host, since you so much believe in one Nigeria, that's good for you. What the Biafrans are asking is referendum and nothing much. So, well, there you are. You can ask, but will you get is the question. He still carries on this 4256. You want Nigeria, will vote for Nigeria and go with Nigeria, and Biafra will go with Biafra. Well, you know, we know that as a working document, a working thesis, but how it's actually actualized is what we're waiting to see. Herb is the next person that chimes in. When your people are killed like cows, Ojukwu had no option but to fight for his people. They were still opposed. So there's a lot of sense in that, because really that war was forced. Either way, who forced it though is subject to debate, but that war was definitely forced. Jennifer, it's even good that the UK has even given IPOB an asylum now. They are all waiting to go and take refuge thereafter. So there you are. That story broke yesterday, that there's a loophole being opened for Biafrans to seek asylum in the United Kingdom. Chike, the people who cannot acknowledge our collective and Ojukwu's mistake during the war may not be aware of what transpired. We must learn from them and move on. So that was the object of the exercise, and that seems to be, I think let's just take this as the last comment, because nobody now seems to want to come on stream like John and David did. So that's the hyperlink if you want to come on and voice your opinion like David just eloquently did. But we'll read this last comment as we wait, and then if nobody chimes in, then we just sum it up. So this is PA, the person that is now potentially having the last comment. Ojukwu did the right thing by seceding. He just didn't have the right logistics. Biafra only officially had about 100 or something rifles when they declared Biafra. But that is exactly the point. That is the point that, what is his name? I keep forgetting his name. The elder statesman, I call him Mazi Ameti, that the aviation minister then under the First Republic. So that is the point that was making. that Ojukwu, and he's saying that this is a direct quotation from Ojukwu, that Ojukwu was promising in the build-up to the war that he had enough weaponry to level Lagos State to sea level. That is to mean to wipe out the entirety of Lagos State. But then, of course, when the war broke, there wasn't even a damn gun to be seen anywhere. And this is the thing that people are saying. Chike rounds it off. Let's say Chike. The name of the river before Europeans is called Otuacha. So Otuacha, that might well be the name for or of that region for that river, but that is just an aside, but an interesting one. So that has been the session that was. We've tried to tackle the Biafran topic. I thought it would be a lot more volatile than this, but of course, we've had the cotton trust, but we've landed on 6 reasons that people are adducing as mistakes attributed to Ojukwu during that period. So those reasons are listed on the video, and if you are still with the video up to this stage, then you'd have heard those reasons listed. What are you making of it, though, is the question. Conversations usually take place in the comment section on this channel, and I come there to engage. So leave your comments in the comment section as we seek to round off here. So I'll leave this session here, carry this conversation on with you in the comment section, but here, I say, peace.